If passed, the bill will make Alberta a safer place, ensuring our province is the best place to live, work, and of course raise a family.
The pro-sovereignty, firewall, free Alberta Wingnuts.
Including that if you speak up or say something different from what they agree with, that you're some fringe group. We're not about to entertain it. And I can tell you, as long as I'm in there, my colleagues in there, we won't put up with it.
When Public Safety Minister Mike Ellis here in Alberta introduced Bill 49 in the Alberta Legislature, the Public Safety Statutes Amendment Act, it was a straightforward proposal to keep Albertans safe in a time of rising crime and liberal catch and release bail policies. The bill cracks down on scrap metal theft, improves disaster response coordination, lays the groundwork for Alberta's very own provincial police force, and adds new important safeguards to limit government overreach when emergency powers are used.
Today, we're bringing these amendments forward to address public safety on 4 different fronts. Number 1, to combat the theft of copper wire, catalytic converters, and other metals. Number 2, to improve how complex disasters and emergencies are handled and how we protect individual rights while maintaining public safety. Number 3, to flesh out the legislative framework for the Police Review Commission, which will be up and running by the end of this year. And number 4, to lay further groundwork for the new independent agency police service, which is another step forward to the full creation of the independence of the new police service.
These are common sense measures, especially for rural Albertans who are tired of being ignored when it comes to rising crime and slow emergency response. But instead of responding with thoughtful debate, NDP MLA Samir Kayandi from Calgary Elbow launched into a smug, tone-deaf rant. He called his own riding of Calgary Elbow privileged, and he accused the United Conservative Party of staging a dangerous power grab and dismissing rural crime as nothing more than political theater from separatist quote-unquote wingnuts.
A rural crime problem that exists after 6 years of UCP government. And so the challenge here is that there is very much a double standard from this UCP government where the rural crime problem cannot be blamed on their policies. Instead, it must be blamed on the government in place between 2015 and 2019. And yet, at the same time, that rural crime problem is being used to implement a strategy that, as the member for Edmonton Manning has mentioned, has existed amongst the pro-sovereignty, firewall, free Alberta wingnuts that have been a part of this province ever since social credit was in power. And so this is the thematic issue I really have a problem with when it comes to Bill 49.
So joining us now is UCP MLA and Government Whip Shane Getson to talk about what Bill 49 actually does and why the NDP's condescension rubbed so many people the wrong way.
You know, Sheila, really appreciate you guys having me on, and quite honestly, everything that you guys do. I find our constituents, they have a hard time trying to find what's real, what's not, and oftentimes they'll use you and a number of the other good outlets that are still out there that aren't bought and paid for by Down East. So really appreciate that. And to your point, you know, we did the Fair Deal panel a number of years ago, and there was a real concern about the policing. It's not that Albertans don't like the RCMP. I think there's a real affinity for them, but I think where it comes back to is the administrative side of the RCMP. A number of the items we've had over the years with their staffing levels not being there, and God bless the troops that do the work. So it's not about the officers themselves. The other one that we've heard, and whether it was intonated strongly enough before, the feds were saying a number of years ago already that they might get out of the provincial policing business. Whether it's Carney's going to carry on with what Trudeau was saying or not, they've been more strongly wording on that and saying that maybe that's not their role. So a lot of this also is in anticipation of response of what we might not have as a resource. So it behooves us to sit flat-footed and have Albertans caught without any policing. And then the other work that we did on that was making sure that our policing standards for the sheriffs, et cetera, are pretty much on par now with what the RCs get as far as equivalency training. And then obviously the optionality, we believe in choice. So those communities that are looking for an option to what's currently afforded to them as the RCMP, that they can explore that, and we would do it. So again, us that live in rural, you understand that you pick up the phone, it's not 5 minutes and someone's there at your door. It can be upwards to half an hour, 45 minutes, and it's not through the police not wanting to be there. It's physically the size, the location where they may be, and the level of issues that they're dealing with. So you're absolutely right. Something that's common sense, you get these wedge things that are thrown out there because the other guys want to play political fodder with people with feelings. And this one MLA, I mean, I don't speak out too often in the role that I'm in, but this guy just drips with condescension every time he picks up the mic, and the, Maserati Marxist would fit well in a button on his lapel. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, he said that basically you're a extremist. Well, he used the word wingnut to describe rural Albertans who are concerned about their personal safety. As crime rises thanks to the Trudeau Liberals and now the Carney Liberals catch and release bail policies. There's also something else in Bill 49 that I don't think enough people are talking about. I am talking about it, and that is the curtailing of emergency powers and making those emergency powers smaller, shorter, and very well defined in this law. And we know that this current iteration of the UCP is a reaction to what a lot of people say, and I would say it, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, the overuse of emergency powers by the former premier. I think it is in completely the opposite direction of what we're seeing in Ottawa. I think the Ottawa Liberals are going to find new and creative ways to make it easier to use emergency powers. And Alberta is doing completely the opposite, making sure that in an emergency, Canadians' rights and freedoms, at least if you're in Alberta, they're going to be protected.
Well, agreed, and I'm more than happy to wade into that a little bit because, I'm glad you brought it up. Most folks don't necessarily see some of the subtleties. But we did see an Emergencies Act dragged off the bench. And make no mistake, the granddaddy language on that was the War Measures Act. So in a case of emergency, break glass, like people have to understand what that means. We saw that brought off the bench, and the Supreme Court has recently ruled on it, which is crickets and the other media as well. That was not what that bill was ever intended for. No different than we saw, this is going back, the prior administration, the prior term that I was in as well, is when we opened up the Health Measures Act to see what power was afforded to governments at the time. Modernizing a bunch of this, making sure it makes in contextual. But the other one too is that, and I'm going to say this, anyone who's listening, maybe the politicians shouldn't be so snowflake in what an emergency is. Maybe we've got caught up in the rhetoric that, things that they say are crises. Most people just got up and had their breakfast and toast and called it Tuesday, like the normal events of a course of business in a day of what some people are considering emergency now versus what they used to consider emergency, like World War I, World War II. We're striking that balance. So again, it's to make sure that notionally, when the province was built, when we put these acts in place, it was a different time and era, and to make sure that there is a little bit more of a caution that just because you're not having a knee-jerk reaction, what could be contemplated as emergency. So maybe we'll leave it with there, but that's thank you for picking up on that point. It's a measured, reasonable approach, and to ensure that you do have limitations in declaring what an emergency really is.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the complete opposite of what's happening in British Columbia, where they're considering expanding the use of their emergency powers to deal with threats of tariffs to their economy. That's not, I mean, it's a terrible thing, but it is not an existential emergency, which is what these emergency powers are meant for. Before I let you go, I know you're very busy, Shane, but what's your message to Albertans who are frustrated watching that sort of behavior, that condescension from the NDP in the legislature? It felt like he was sort of mocking the real tangible fears of many Albertans in a time of just rising crime everywhere. What's your message to Albertans who are frustrated watching that kind of behavior in the legislature?
Well, firstly, it's not everybody, so understand that. With us, we get painted as the bad guy, often overreactionary. We understand it. Like, folks in rural know where the cattle are raised. They know where your energy comes from. We might have a little dirt under our fingernails, dirty hands, but clean soul. Let's put it that way. You do have representation in there that's taken that balance. And for my urban friends, we appreciate you as well. We know that there's a balance on the urban side of things. You're not going to have a one size fits all solution. So I would say to Albertans that be careful, be choosy. Hopefully you do go take a look at this, because a lot of us that have to listen to this champagne socialist items, like we're about done with it too. So thank goodness you got us in place. Please continue to support us in this. Know that we're trying to do the right things for the right reasons. And again, that other side, we're going to have to see how this works out. But when you've got individuals that make all of their money from the energy sector, once they've cashed out and done that, they stand up there and then try to tell you to shut everything in, including that if you speak up or say something different from what they agree with, that you're some fringe group. We're not about to entertain it. And I can tell you, as long as I'm in there and my colleagues in there, we won't put up with it. So we're going to continue to govern accordingly for the province, for the right reasons, the right morals, the right ethics, with a balanced approach. And whether you hear the message or not, we're going to try to take it on the road with town halls this summer, so you can talk to us, eyeball us, and see directly. And then thank goodness for Rebel and the other outlets too. At least you'll get a balanced approach to it. So I guess the closing thing, Sheila, without rambling too long, is you got us in here for a reason. You gave us a mandate. We haven't gone off on one side or the other. We're taking a balanced approach, and we're doing the adult grown-up things and modernizing the acts where we need to make sure that you do have those resources and services when you need them, because you deserve them, you paid for them, and we need to get the quality of service up. And the policing side is just one of those elements that we're looking at.
Whether you are rural or urban, the Liberal government's soft on crime approach is affecting you, and it's going to take a lot more than empathy from the NDP to make a change. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. Whether you are a true blue, unwavering separatist, or a proud Albertan who is just tired of being neglected and abused by Ottawa, our series of town halls is for you. To learn more, go to donegetingscrewed.com.